And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. From his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. On Friday, my friend Ryan tweeted, "The liturgical calendar has been a gift to me. The steady rhythm of Christ's life comes and goes as reliably as waves on the shore, drawing us in to see everything from electrons circling nuclei to the rotations of the galaxies as part of God's unyielding redemption of all things." He continued, "There aren't any plot twists. Instead of branching out, we dig deeper. The joy comes from inside the story, not from novelty. The joy comes from inside the story, not from novelty." So we hear again, like on Christmas Day and the first Sunday after Christmas every year, the kernel of our Christian story, the seed from which we make sense of the world and have hope in the God who created and redeemed and is sustaining the world. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. From his fullness, we have all received grace upon grace. I don't need to tell anyone that this has been a hard year. We've all lived it. From unfortunate attempts at morning prayer on Twitch, to the Triduum as at-home devotions, to lost great-grandchildren, to Thanksgiving food drops, to uncertain employment and housing situations. Our congregation has been lucky. I haven't had to bury any of you for anything during this pandemic, let alone COVID-19. Yet 330,000 Americans have died from COVID-19. That's 1 in every 1,000 Americans who are dead, with communities of color who are already disadvantaged and face uphill climbs in life being hit the hardest. 1 out of every 1,500 Americans over the age of 25 is currently hospitalized with COVID-19. We know how bad it's been, and in some way or another, throughout creation and human history, it's always been bad. John the Evangelist, setting the tone of his gospel, gives us the end of the Christian story. He gives it away. We hear the kernel, but we know the fullness of it in these 18 verses today. When John says, "What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it." Evil, tragedy, and malady are nothing new from the fall onward. In her book on Advent, Fleming Rutledge gives the game away, saying, "If you ask me how God can allow so much evil, here's the answer. We don't know. Nobody knows the answer to the problem of evil. And yet, in a sense, the most important of all theological problems it is. And we should never lose sight of it. We don't know why God allows such evil to flourish. We do know, however, what God has done and is doing about it. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. From his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. Rather than set us loose and leave us to our own devices and machinations, God joins us in the muck. Coming in Jesus to teach and redeem us, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. After weeks of longing and praying for the fortitude to be ready for Jesus' final return to make all things new, the church reminds us of the truth of our faith. The Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. In the deepest part of winter, when we, at our latitude, don't even get 8.5 hours of daylight, Jesus, the light, shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. The steady rhythm of Jesus' life comes and goes as reliably as waves on the shore, drawing us to see everything, from electrons circling nuclei to the rotation of the galaxies, as part of God's unyielding redemption of all things, the whole of creation, the whole of the cosmos. Evil is real, and we've seen manifestations of it all year this year, from insider trading of technology companies and pharmaceutical companies, to killing protesters, to bombing AT&T out of what looks like a 5G conspiracy in Nashville. Being stuck at home this year, though, has just made evil all the more apparent. We've been unable to distract ourselves or distance ourselves with normal life, and so we've doom-scrolled for 10 months, becoming intimately aware of the evil that surrounds us. As we celebrate the birth of the Christ child, we have seen a great light that is redeeming all creation. Jesus has taken on our flesh to redeem us all. God has joined the created world to redeem and save the created world from our own downfall. As Charles Wesley wrote, "Mild he lays his glory by, born that man no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. The Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. From his fullness we have all received grace upon grace." Charles Wesley continues, "Hark the herald angels sing." with verses that are not included in most contemporary renditions. And yet they're the prayer I have for us today. The original language is what I'm using because of the meter. It is not inclusive. For that, I apologize. Come, desire of nations, come. Fix in us thy heavenly home. Rise, the woman's conquering seed. Bruise in us the serpent's head. Now display thy saving power. Ruined nature now restore. Now in mystic union join. Thine to ours, and ours to thine. Adam's likeness, Lord, efface. Stamp thy image in its place. Second Adam from above, reinstate us in thy love. Let us thee, though lost, regain, thee the life, the inner man. O to all thyself impart, formed in each believing heart. Merry Christmas. Amen.